Hello everybody and welcome to another video. In this video, I basically just want to talk about nested loops and just keep going, continue on where I left off last time. So we talked about the idea of what nested loops are, and the first it's basically a loop inside a loop, and we talked about how the scope of the variable matters whenever you're doing a loop. So you can't reuse the same variable name. That was just the whole topic of last video. But in this video, let's just say I want to actually do something. But if I compile this will actually work. That's because I have a loop, which is an outer loop and an inner loop. That's often what you will see people refer to. You often see people refer to nested loop as an inner and an outer loop. The inner loop is the inner loop, and the outer loop is the loop that's contained within the inner loop. So that's just the idea of what nested loops are. You can also have a loop inside a loop, which inside a loop, inside a loop, inside a loop, as many times as you want. So basically, let's just say I did something like this. Let's say I say system.out, println, I print out I plus space and then plus j. Let's just see what happens. What is it printing out? It's printing out 1 1 1 1 2 1 3, then 2 1 2 2 2 3 3 1 3 2 3 3 3. So what we are printing is we are printing I. I is a variable that changes 1 2 3, and then j is another variable that changes 1 2 3. But this is where a lot of people are very confused about and where they get lost. Let me go ahead and just copy this code, and I will go ahead and go to the notebook I have right here. I will paste this code in here. That's because I just want to talk about it. And let me move it. So let me go ahead and get my marker ready. So basically the idea is we have a variable called I. I'll declare it here. So we have a variable I, and then we have a variable j. And let me just go ahead and make a table. So what happens here? Where does I start at? I starts at 1. And we check, is I less than or equal to 3? Yes, I is less than or equal to 3. So what are we doing here? We are creating another loop j. J starts at what? J starts at 1. So we go in here, we go inside the loop, j starts at 1. We check, is j less than 3? Yes, j is less than 3. So we don't execute the updates yet because we haven't done anything in it, because we have to execute whatever inside the code. And j starts at 1. Let me just write it here. J starts at 1. What do? We print out I plus j. I'll go ahead and just draw it here. I'll just say output. I'll just say output right here. Output. And we print out I. What is I? I is 1 and j is 1. So we print out I. But again, we separate it with the space. And I print out j. And then I separate it with the space. Now, what do we do next? We are still inside the inner loop. Again, remember, the outer loop runs whatever is inside the inner loop, and the inner loop is what's contained in my code, and I have a loop. So the thing is, I don't go back to the outer loop unless I finish executing whatever is inside my inner loop. So in this case, j now becomes 2. So j becomes 2 now, but I still stays the same. This is where people get lost. What you have to remember is the inner loop will always finish executing, and whenever it's done executing, it could have loops inside of it, which we'll talk about in the next video. If we want, we could have loops inside the loops. We could have loops inside the inner loop of the outer loop. For example, I could have a variable int k equals something, go k equals something, and then k something update. But what you got to understand is this loop has to finish executing before it could go up to here. And you also got to realize the inner loop always go 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3, indicated as many times by the outer loop. How many times does the outer loop run? The outer loop runs from 1 to 3. And how many times does the inner loop run? The inner loop runs from 1 to 3. So 3 times. 3 times. So what do we understand? The inner loop runs 3 times, 3 times. It runs 3 times, 3 times. Meaning this whole thing will run 9 times. This loop will run 9 times, and this outer loop will run 3 times. So let me go ahead and continue where I was. So we talked about J started at 1, now J became 2, and then we don't go to our update yet, and then we print out system.out.println I plus J on a new line. So what is I? I is still 1 and J is still 2. So we print out 1, 2. Then we go to our update, J now becomes 3. So again, I'm crossing out the numbers as I am exploring them. So now J becomes 3. So we check, is 3 less than or equal to 3? Yes, it is. So we execute the inner loop. The inner loop is 1. It prints out 1, which is I, and it prints out J. J is now 3. So we print out 1, and then we print out 3. Now J becomes what? What does J become? J becomes 4. We check, okay, is 4 less than or equal to 3? No, it's not. So what happens now? This is where the magic happens. This is where we break out of this loop. We break out of this loop right here. We break out of this loop right here. And then we go back to the outer loop. And what do we do in the outer loop? The outer loop, now we update I. Now we do our update. Now what does I become? I now becomes 2. Yes, I now becomes 2. Let me go ahead and just do 4 here. And then now I becomes 2. And then we cross out I. And then now we do the same thing. J will start at 1 again. Again, you got to understand that the inner loop will run the exact number of times indicated by the outer loop. Meaning, it now ran 1, 2, 3 with 1. Now it's going to run 1, 2, 3 with 2 as the I. And then it will run 3, 1, 2, 3 with 3 as the I. And then it will do the same thing. So now it will just print out 2, 1. So we'll do the same thing. Let's just walk through how we got it. So I is 2 because we finished executing I was 1. We did everything inside the loop. So we did a 1, 2, 3. J always starts at 1, 2, 3. We then we print out I. What is I? I is 2. And what does J start at? J starts at 1. So print out 2, 1. We cross that out. Now J becomes 2. We print out IJ. So it prints out 2, 2. We cross that out. Then we print out 2, 3. J now becomes 4. And we know 4 is less than or equal to 3. So we just cross that out. And now we update when I is 3. So when I is 3, what do? We print out 3, 1 with J. And then we print out, sorry, I'm running out of space. I'll just write right here. We do print out 3, 2. And then we print out 3, 3. We cross them out as we visit them. Print out 3, 3. Now what does I become? I now becomes 4. And then we check, okay, is 4 less than or equal to 3? No, it's not. So this loop stops running. As a result, this loop failed. That means this whole condition failed. We don't execute the inner loop because the outer loop failed. And then we just print out all these numbers right here, which is 1, 1, 1, 2, 2, 1, 2, 2, 2, 3. And if I go back to the code, that's exactly we had 1, 1, 1, 2, 1, 3, 2, 1, 2, 2, 2, 3, 3, 1, 3, 2, 3, 3. So that's basically the idea of a small introduction to nested loops. We'll definitely talk about more complex things you could do with nested loops. But what I'm trying to say is, think of it like this. The outer loop will run the inner loop the same number of times indicated by however many times we have. For example, if I had I go from 4 to 7, and then I had J go from 1 to 3, I know J is always going to run. So 1, 2, 3, 3 times. So this runs 3 times. And I know this loop runs 3 times. And I know it will have to run, we will run J 1 to 3, 3 times. And then we'll run it 3 times. So we'll run 3 times, 3 times. Meaning we'll go 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 9 times. So we do 3 times 3. You can also visualize like this. If you draw out the sequence of numbers, so if I had, let's say, let me just clear this out. Let me clear this whole board. If I had I equals 4 to 10, and I had J equal to, let's say, 5 to 7, I know J is going to run 5, 6, 7. That's 3 times. And then this loop is going to run 4, 5, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That's 7 times. And I know I'm going to run this 7 times. So that means I'm doing J 3 times, 7 times. So you just multiply these numbers so you get 21. So that means I know I'm going to have 21 lines of output. So if I go back to my original code, let's just go back to it. I know I'm going to run a number, at least again, if you're wondering how I got this method, this is the way that I actually learned how to actually understand nested loops. I know the in loop is going to run the same number amount of times, and it's dictated by the outer loop. So in this case, I know that J is going to run 1, 2, 3 times, and I is going to run 3 times. So I know I'm going to have 3 outputs 3 different times, meaning I'm going to have a total of 9 outputs. So let's just see. So we have 9 right here. We have 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So we have 9 outputs. If you're wondering what else to do, let's say I had 10, and then I had 13. Well, sorry, let's say I had 14. So how many times is that going to run? That's 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. That's 5 times, 3 times. So I know I'm going to have 15 lines of output. If you're wondering how I got that, I know the loop is going to go from 10 to 14. That's 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. That's 5 times. And I'm going to run that 3 times. So I know I'm going to have 15 lines of output. So let's just see 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So that's just one way in which you could figure out how many lines of output you have. You always know that the inner loop will always run the same amount of time as the outer loop. That is basically nested loops. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you learned nested for loops, and I will definitely see you in more videos. Thanks for watching. Feel free to like and subscribe. If you have any questions, leave in the comment sections. That's it for this video, and peace.